Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy Guthrie, missing day 54. Tonight, the latest into the investigation regarding her disappearance. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us.
I mean, from the very early moments, you know, Annie and Tommy were saying this isn't that case that you are used to where someone wanders off. She can't wander off. Mm-hmm. My mom, she was in tremendous pain. Yeah. Her back was very bad. You know, she was trying to, on a good day, she could walk down to the mailbox and get the mail, but most days not. So there was no wander off. And the doors were propped open. Yeah. And there was blood on the front doorstep. And the Ring camera had been yanked off. Yeah. And so we were saying, this is...
Yeah. Do something.
This is not okay.
Yeah.
This isn't... Something is very wrong here.
Yeah. That from our friends at Today YouTube. Dave Mack, what's the latest?
Nancy, we learned a lot in this Today Show interview between Savannah Guthrie and Hoda Kotb. But one thing that we have known early was about medication that Nancy Guthrie takes for pain. Savannah reiterated that, saying that, you know, there are times when Nancy couldn't even walk to the mailbox. I mean, her pain is that bad that on a good day, she would walk to the mailbox. I mean, that is significant because of all of the things we have learned about what happened inside the house, evidence-wise, what we have seen on the front porch in terms of blood. And that was pretty important to really get more of the details about the pain that Nancy Guthrie lives with on a daily basis and how difficult life can be. There was also something else. Doors propped open. This is the first time we've heard this mentioned. Doors propped open. Now, I'm going to bet that it's not the front door because we've dealt with the front door. We've talked a lot about that where we had Porch Guy on video, right? But what about the back door? Was the back door propped open as Savannah intimated during the interview? Is that what it was, propped open, and that's how they were able to get Nancy Guthrie out of the house? Again, going back to she can't even walk to the mailbox, barely. So we believe she was carried out of the house in some manner. This really does change what we're talking about in terms of Nancy Guthrie's kidnapping. So what door was propped open? We got to find that out. So now we know. Doors propped open, and of course, the pain. But there was even more in the Today Show interview with Savannah Guthrie.
And he said, I think she's been kidnapped for ransom. And I said, yeah. What? Yeah. Well, why? What? And then, I mean, it sounds so like how dumb could I be? But I didn't want to believe. I just said, do you think because of me? And he said, I'm sorry, sweetie, but yeah, maybe. But I knew that.
You did?
I hope not. I mean, we still don't know. Mm-hmm. Honestly, we don't know anything. No. We don't know anything. So, I don't know that it's because she's my mom and somebody thought, oh, that girl, that lady has money, we can make a quick buck. I mean, that would make sense, but we don't know. But yeah, that's probably, which is too much to bear. To think that I brought this to her bedside, that it's because of me. And I just say, I'm so sorry, Mommy. I'm so sorry.
The thought that Savannah Guthrie is blaming herself, that interview from the Today Show, it's heartbreaking. Heartbreaking for her to apologize to her sister and her brother and, of course, to her mother. with such a, obviously knowing how we all call our mom something different, calling her mommy, breaking hearts around the world to think that it's her fault somehow. It's not. It's the kidnapper's fault. But we do see a lot of information on this interview that we didn't know before. We have some new information about what happened the night Nancy Guthrie was taken. We've believed, based on what Savannah has said previously, that Nancy Guthrie was taken from her bed in the middle of the night. In this piece from Savannah on the Today Show, she's mentioning that 84-year-old woman taken in the dead of night in her PJs with no shoes.
It is surreal. How is it possible that we are having to make a video speaking to a kidnapper who took an 84-year-old woman in the dead of night in her pajamas with no shoes, without her medicine, this little person, and to beg for mercy.
That from our friends at Today YouTube. Savannah issuing another plea, begging people for help and describing the anguish her family has been enduring since her mother vanished in the middle of the night. Now to Brian Fitzgibbons joining us, Director of Operations USPA Nationwide Security, leading a team of investigators around the world, including extractions from Mexico, finding missing people, former Marine, Iraqi war vet. Brian, weigh in.
Yeah, this interview answers a number of questions that we've had as we followed this case. And hearing that Mrs. Guthrie was taken with no shoes, in her pajamas, in the dead of night, with the doors to the back propped wide open, we certainly learned quite a bit about this abduction. And I will note something else that we heard in the interview is that Cameron Guthrie, Savannah's brother, career fighter pilot, and also served in intelligence in the military, almost immediately identified that this was a kidnapping for ransom plot. In the immediate minutes following this being reported to Pima County, Annie Guthrie was communicating to them that she could not have wandered off, could not have walked a distance. So this case was treated that way right from the start.
Before we start, quick question for you. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your location in the comments. And if you're into real, chilling crime stories like this, hit subscribe now, because this one only gets darker. It started with a door. Not broken. Not forced open. Just slightly propped. The kind of detail most people would ignore until everything else stopped making sense. When Savannah Guthrie spoke about the case, she didn't raise her voice. She didn't dramatize it. But one line she revealed changed everything. She left without her shoes. That was the moment investigators knew this wasn't a normal disappearance. The house sat quiet in a calm neighborhood, no signs of struggle, no overturned furniture, no shattered glass. Just a handbag still on the table, a phone left behind, and by the door a pair of shoes. Whoever walked out of that house didn't plan to be gone long. Neighbors said they heard nothing, no screams, no argument, no car speeding away, nothing. It was like she stepped out for a second and vanished into thin air. But here, where it gets worse, the door being open wasn't random. Investigators believe it was either left open in a rush or opened for someone she trusted enough not to question. And that changes everything, because it means one of two things. She was taken quickly, or she walked out willingly into something she didn't see coming. Then came the timeline. The last confirmed moment she was inside that house was only minutes before she disappeared. Minutes. No long window. No time to plan, no time to pack, no time to even grab shoes. That's not someone running away. That's someone who expected to come right back. When Nancy Grace later weighed in, she focused on one brutal possibility. Barefoot means vulnerable. And vulnerable means whoever was involved had control. But the most chilling part, there was no trace of her outside. No footprints. No dropped items. No witnesses placing her anywhere beyond that door. It's as if the moment she crossed that threshold, she disappeared from the world. And just when investigators thought it couldn't get stranger, they found one small detail inside the house, something so easy to miss, yet so disturbing. It completely changed the direction of the case. I'll stop here, because what they found next, it doesn't just raise questions. It points to someone. But before that, where are you watching from? And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Investigators went back inside the house. At first, they thought they had already seen everything. No forced entry, no chaos, nothing obvious. But this time, they slowed down. They stopped looking for what was there and started noticing what wasn't. It was something small. So small, it had been overlooked the first time. A chair. Not broken, not flipped, just slightly out of place. It didn't match the rest of the room. Everything else was neat, almost untouched. But that chair, it had been moved recently. And when they checked the floor beneath it, there were faint marks. Dragging marks. That changed the entire theory. Because now, this didn't look like someone simply walking out. This looked like someone being positioned. When Savannah Guthrie revisited the detail, she pointed out something chilling. It suggests there was a moment before she left that door. A moment inside that house that nobody heard. Investigators began to piece it together. She may have been near the door, maybe even heading out. Then something happened. Something quick, controlled, silent. No screams, no struggle loud enough for neighbors. Just enough movement to leave that one chair out of place. And then came the second discovery. Near the doorway, barely visible unless you were looking for it. A partial print. Not a full footprint, not clear enough to identify. But enough to confirm one thing. She didn't walk out calmly. The angle, the pressure, it suggested imbalance. Like someone trying to regain footing. Or being forced forward. That's when Nancy Grace stepped in with a theory investigators couldn't ignore. This wasn't random, this was close. Close enough to enter without force. Close enough to keep things quiet. Close enough to not raise suspicion. And suddenly the focus shifted. Away from strangers. Towards someone who knew. The layout of the house. Her routine. And exactly when to strike. But here, where it gets even darker, there were no signs of a break-in. Which means one thing investigators hate to admit. The door may have been opened from the inside, willingly. Someone she trusted. Someone she didn't hesitate to let in. And just when they started building a list of people who fit that description, a new piece of information came in. Not from the house. Not from the scene. But from earlier that same day. A conversation. One that now sounds completely different, knowing what happened next. And that conversation, it points directly at a name. It all came down to a door, left slightly open. At first it looked like nothing. No forced entry, no signs of a break-in, just a quiet house and a woman who vanished without a trace. But then Savannah Guthrie revealed the detail that changed everything. She left without her shoes. That's when investigators knew this wasn't planned. This wasn't someone running away. This was sudden. Inside the house, everything seemed normal until they noticed one small detail: a chair slightly out of place. Beneath it, faint drag marks. That suggested something happened before she ever reached the door. Then came a partial footprint near the entrance, not clear, but enough to show imbalance, like she didn't walk out freely. That's when the theory shifted. This wasn't random. According to NancyGrace, this was personal. No forced entry meant one thing. She likely opened the door herself. For someone she knew. Someone she trusted. Then investigators uncovered something from earlier that day, a conversation. At the time, it meant nothing. But now, it pointed directly to someone in her inner circle. A familiar name. Someone who knew her routine, her home, and exactly when she would be alone. As pressure built, that person's story started to fall apart. Timelines didn't match. Details changed. And small inconsistencies began stacking up. Not enough for an immediate arrest, but enough to shift the entire case. And the most chilling part, there was still no sign of her. No confirmed location. No clear evidence of where she was taken. Just a quiet house, an open door, and a pair of shoes left behind. In the end, this case wasn't about a random disappearance. It was about trust. The kind that lets someone open the door without thinking. And never come back.
We're curious as to what you see in the body language of how this individual is working by and looking and doing things.
Well, we are seeing him at diagonals quite a bit. Granted, even though he's coming up and trying to stay away from the camera, he tilts off to the left when he leans down. You might say, well, Janine, how else might you lean down? Well, some people lean straight down when they drop a pen or drop something. He's leaning at diagonal. He even walks slowly at this diagonal. Why this matters is there's something called movement pattern analysis or movement DNA. I often will dub it a behavioral fingerprint. And there are about, 8 or 9 billion people on the planet. There's 36 billion different combinations of how we move our bodies that connect directly to how we make decisions in life. The fact that we're seeing these diagonals again there, he's tipped to his left. Now he's going to tip to his right here. So when we see these tips, these are connected with evaluators. These are people that like systems. These are people that are motivated to prioritize things. And by the way, just because you are motivated to create a system or to evaluate or do pros and cons doesn't mean you're good at it. And so the reason this is important for the people that are watching this clip, I have a funny feeling there are people out there that look at this movement and say, he reminds me of my next door neighbor or my former neighbor, or he reminds me of my cousin's best friend. Why do I think that? Research shows that we can literally walk down the street and not see a person's face, not hear their voice, but by the way they're walking, say, is that my next door neighbor? Is that my ex-husband? Your kids walk in the house and you don't even have to see them. And you go, Charlie, is that you? Jack, is that you? How? By how heavy they walk, how their movement is moving can literally let someone else know. This is how parents know which child walked in first, because we have movement DNA. So what's important here is noticing this movement. This is a person who, when he dips down to pick something up, he's using at the diagonal. This is the scales of justice. If I were Savannah and her family, these are the types of people that connect with thinking about how is this going to impact your family. Tie in that evaluation, how this going unsolved, unresolved, how is this impacting the people in your life, your family? Because this is a person who's going to evaluate what's happening here.
This individual, as you watch him or her walking up to the door, it looks to me like they're looking inside the door, like they're trying to see. See, here we go. Head down. He was kind of loping when he comes in, right? The first two steps are kind of like one of the Marx brothers. There it is. And then he looks down like, oh, wait a minute, the camera. It looks to me like he's looking inside the house through that side window. Like, is my compatriot in here? Are they going to let me in? Is that what you're seeing, or am I reading too much into it?
Well, I don't know. I always say I can notice the behavior. I can't tell you what the catalyst is on the behavior, but that's certainly likely that could be happening. Of course, he probably doesn't want his face to be seen as he's coming forward here. As he gets closer to the camera, though, we can see a little bit of his eyes at one point, and when we see that, we can see the curvature of his eyebrows, which are curved. And there's 3 types of eyebrows. We can see it right here. Curved eyebrows are people who care about the people around them. A friend of mine, Brian Galke, he teaches physiognomy, and that's the study of the structure of our face. And there's only 3 types of eyebrows, Brian says. Think about, go to the Lego store. Legos, all those little Lego characters have 3 eyebrows attached to these heads, right? They're either straight across, they're curved, or they're angled. Well, straight across people want facts and figures, logic. Angled eyebrows want to know what's your angle. They think long term. They think the consequences. We see curved eyebrows here. Curved eyebrows are people who care about how does this impact the people around me. If I was still in law enforcement and retired ATF, I would be thinking, okay, did the Guthrie family do anything to anyone in the community, to the family? Could it have been the Epstein situation? You know, this person is involved in those curved eyebrows. He's thinking, all right, this is connected somehow, whether it's on the front end to my family or in the back end. I just did this crime. How is this going to impact the people around me? So we don't know if it happened before or after or both. But this is a man, this is an individual who cares about how his behavior and other people's behavior impacts the people around them. If you're in sales and you have curved eyebrows, I have curved, but they're hard to see. You want to say, hey, Janine, if you buy my product, here's how it's going to make your kids enjoy their summer better. Here's how it's going to help your sister with her new business. You're going to talk about not just me, but everybody else. So during the plea, I would add in here, you know, how is this impacting your family? The stress of maybe people knowing about this. And maybe this could help share and get some of this load off of someone out there that might be carrying the secret. They know what's going on.
Oh, or think you know anything about the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, please call Anonymous. FBI 800-225-5324, 225-5324, or 520-882-7463, 520-882-7463. There is a $1.2+ million reward for information leading to the whereabouts of Nancy Guthrie. Thank you to our guests tonight, but especially to you for being with us and helping us keep the search for Nancy Guthrie alive. Nancy Grace signing off, but I'll see you tomorrow night. And until then, good night, friend.